Hi you guys, I am going to take a minute and go over the test and go through each question. As I do this, I want you to figure out what you did wrong when you were doing your test. At the top of your test, it either says a 4 or a 3 or a retake. Okay, so on this test, you could only miss 1 to get a 3. So if you missed any more than 1, it is a test that you're going to need to retake. Remember when we started this module, I told you that what we are learning is the very most important thing you'll learn in 7th grade. And so I don't want you to just kind of know it. I want you to know it. And then next week, we're going to be solving 2-step equations. And so it's really important that you first know how to do 1-step equations. Okay, so with that said, let's go ahead and go through these. Remember, when you are solving an equation, the very first thing that you need to do is you need to figure out where the variable is. Okay, so my variable is right here, and this equation says negative 9.6 times by x. Okay, whenever a number is right next to a variable, in math, we know that that is implied multiplication. And when you're solving an equation, the only way that you can get rid of a multiplication is by using division. Okay, so on this one, because we want to be left with just the x, the thing we're canceling out is the multiplication of negative 9.6. Okay, and it has to be a negative 9.6 because a negative 9.6 divided by a negative 9.6 is what gives me a positive 1x. Okay, now whatever you do on one side, you have to do the same exact thing on the other side. Now, an important part of this is making sure that you put the operations in the calculator correctly. Okay, so let me show you that really quick. You have to put the 16 in the calculator first because that's the top of the fraction. And the 16 is being divided by the 9.6. So that gives us a repeating decimal. And the way that you write a repeating decimal is you would do negative 1.6, and then this is the part that's repeating. Okay, some of you did negative 1.67. I also gave you credit if you did either one of those things. Okay, but you had to do that a positive divided by a negative was a negative. Okay, now on the next one, this one says k plus 1 3/5 equals 17/5. So if we're going to get this k all by itself, we need to get rid of the subtract 1 3/5 in order for the k to be alone. Okay, so remember when you do these, that's what you're thinking about. What am I going to do to make the k be alone? And the way that you get rid of a subtract 1 3/5 is by doing an addition. Now, this is how I want you to show your work. I want you to show me that you're adding 1 3/5 to the left side and that you are also adding 1 3/5 to the right side. Okay, so that leaves me with k is equal to, over here, I'm just going to take care of this, 17/5 plus 1 3/5. And I know you guys can use your calculators on these. 1 3/5 as an improper fraction is going to be 8/5. And so then these two already have a common denominator. So 17 plus 8 is 25. 25 divided by 5 is just a 5. Okay, so that one should have been k equals 5. Okay, now on the next one, it was 2.8 plus x equals 4.5. And another way that we could write this is x plus 2.8 equals 4.5, because remember with addition is commutative. So you can actually change the order that you add and it doesn't change the answer. Okay, so here is the variable, right? And in order to get this variable alone, we're going to have to get rid of the addition of 2.8. The way that you get rid of addition is by using subtraction. So you should have subtracted 2.8 from both sides, and you get k equals 1.7. Okay, on the next one, your variable is right here, and 10 is being subtracted from the variable. So if you want to be left with the variable, that means you need to get rid of the subtract 10. Okay? So our subtract 10. If we want the x to be all by itself, we have to get rid of the subtract 10. And the way that you get rid of subtracting 10 is to add 10. And again, this is the work that you should be showing on your test. Okay, now on the right side, the subtract 10, add 10, see that cancels out. It eliminates each other. So you're left with x, which is what you want to have happen. And then a negative 10, positive 10 combined ends up giving you a 0. X equals 0 is the solution. If you plug 0 in for the x, that is what makes this equation true. Okay, and then the last one, this was probably the most missed question. I'm not sure why so many students miss this one, but our variable is right here, okay? And the variable is being divided by 5. So if we want to just have the y, we have to get rid of the divided by 5 by timesing by 5. Okay? So this divide by 5 times by 5, that cancels out. We're left with y equals, and then we have a negative 1/2 times a positive 5. And you guys, anytime, I'm going to draw my little triangle here, right? I'm going to draw my little party hat. Anytime you have a negative multiplied by a positive, your answer is going to be a negative. Okay? So a negative 1/2 times a positive 5 is going to be a negative answer. And then when we multiply fractions, we don't have to have common denominators. 1 times 5 is 5. 2 times 1 is 2. So this ends up being a negative 5 over 2. Now, some of you went ahead and wrote that as negative 2 1/2, which is the same. And some of you have written that as negative 2.5. All three of those answers are the same. Okay, so at this point, if you got a 4 or a 3, you are good on this topic. If you missed any of the ones on your test, you'll have to show me that you corrected what you missed before I will allow you to take the retake. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and move on with today's lesson.